Yucatecan people are a super kind people. There's no question about that. There's countless stories that I've heard from my friends here in Mexico, expats, other expats, about how kind and generous the Yucatecan people are. I will tell you, however, when they get behind the wheel, it's a different animal. So. We were here for 6 months and I didn't see any signs of road rage prior to driving in Mexico. But since I've owned a car, I've experienced quite a bit of it. And it's really funny because the folks here are super impatient. I'll give you an example. When driving down the road, it's not uncommon for someone to literally cut right in front of you to get one car ahead. I mean, one car, not 5 or 6 cars ahead. You'll constantly see motorcycles and other cars weaving in and out. They really believe in their stick shifts, and I think that they feel like they're in a race, some type of moto race where they're shifting and just weaving out inside of cars. So that is one of the things I will tell you. Number one, super aggressive drivers that will cut in front of you to get one car ahead. Number two is the glorietas. Glorietas are roundabouts. So Mexico is the home or the king of roundabouts. I don't know why there's so many roundabouts. There's one major street that I travel all the time. There are 3 different roundabouts on this one street every so often. Now, the cool thing about the roundabouts is they look super intimidating when you first start driving, but once you get the flow, the roundabouts actually make sense. The rule of thumb is if you're in the circle, you have the right of way. And you just have to wait for your turn to get into the circle. But once you're in there, you have the right of way, people yield, and you go about your business. Roundabouts are everywhere. You have to learn how to drive in them, but they actually make sense. Number 3 is people don't stop at the stop sign. What I mean by that is if the stop sign's here, they're gonna stop up here. And the reason for that is that many of the buildings and a lot of the streets, even in residential areas, have big walls around them, right? So the house is completely separated by a wall or surrounded by a wall, and then there's a stop sign. Well, you can't see past that wall to see traffic coming by, so they actually almost pull out into the intersection, which is nerve-wracking to say the least. They'll pull out almost into the intersection in order to see, if traffic is coming by. So you're driving along and you see a car that doesn't look like it's going to stop at the stop sign. He's pulling out to the intersection, but he's really just trying to see around them. So that's something you definitely have to get used to, is that they're going to pull past the stop sign. They're going to pull out almost into the intersection, and you just have to anticipate that. You cannot be distracted on your phones driving here. There's too much going on, whether it's roundabouts or people weaving in and out, so you must pay attention. Number 4, the crazy motorcyclist. So I told you about Rappi and some of my other posts, and Rappi and other things are often delivered on motorcycles. In fact, they sell motorcycles in the shopping center. So you can go to Walmart, Soriana, which is a grocery store chain, Super Chedraui, and actually buy a motorcycle. So I think that is probably the first leg of transportation outside of a bike. You get a bike, you graduate from a bike to a motorcycle, from a motorcycle to a car. And so once you get your motorcycle, I don't think there's any type of, I don't know, there may be a motorcycle test that you have to pass, but when I tell you that these motorcycles are absolutely crazy and they weave in between traffic, they go between cars, they go around cars on the shoulder, they do all of those things. So you have to be careful for motorcyclists because they take their lives in their hands every single day and they don't necessarily practice safe driving. Hey y'all, sorry to interrupt your video, but I wanted to give you a brief word of encouragement. In 2018, we were doing the exact same thing you're doing right now. We were watching YouTube video after YouTube video, trying to figure out this Mexico life. So when we got here, we decided to document our process, document our plan, document every single thing that we possibly could to make it a little easier for everybody that came behind us. And so that is documented on MexitPlans.com, our blog. Please consider becoming a MexConnect member and help us keep making great content. All right, now back to your video. Let's talk about the streets. So the quality of the roads aren't the best. In fact, they're pretty poor. I mean, you think of cities like Cleveland and some other places that have potholes all over the place. Well, that's not uncommon. And when I talk about potholes, I'm talking about craters in the road. So not only is the pavement just not good in most roads, particularly the secondary roads like surface streets and neighborhoods, but sometimes you'll actually run into an actual hole. I've seen where there's been a hole in the street and they put a tire inside of that hole, an old tire, so that people didn't run into it. So the streets are pretty bad, and it's going to wear on your suspension and all of those things. But just be aware that the streets, people are often weaving around potholes into other lanes and those types of things. Speaking of lanes, there aren't any. So they're here in the Yucatan. I don't know if it's the paint, I don't know if it's the heat, I don't know what the situation is, but even on the main thoroughfares, Paseo de Montejo and Prolongation de Montejo, the lanes are just kind of, you follow the car in front of you. There are no lines delineating this lane from that lane. They're very faint, and so you just kind of follow the car in front of you. And so it's oftentimes where you know that there's 2 lanes, you'll see 3. And so it's really funny, but the lanes are kind of like, yeah, just don't run into the other car and follow what's going on in front of you, and you should be okay. The last thing I'll tell you about the streets is they have this concept called a tope. What these are big speed bumps, and so you'll see a sign on the right hand side, and generally that says tope ahead. Kind of let you know that there's topes coming up. And depending on where you are, that can be anything from a little boom boom to a ramp. And so topes are really designed to slow traffic down, but topes are everywhere and they will tear your car up if you're not paying attention. Last but not least is the price of gas. So we don't really often consider, everything in Mexico seems super cheap. Mexico is flush in oil. They have, a lot of oil resources, but the price of gas is actually about $4 and some change a gallon. So the prices that you'll see around town are in liters. It's like 19 pesos a liter, 19.8 pesos a liter. That's almost $1 a liter. And so 4 liters equal a gallon, $4 a gallon. So gas here is kind of expensive. You're looking at $4 a gallon, but everything else from the price of the vehicle to insurance is going to be fairly cheap. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this video. If it added any value into your life, do me a favor. Click on the like button, bang that subscribe button, become a member, get all the updates when we release new content, and leave me a comment. Tell me what I should have covered, some of the questions that you might have about driving here in Mexico or buying a car. Until next time, MexitPlan Monty, I'm out.